New Beginning Christian Center with Dr. Danny Ellis. Let's listen to a message already
Under
in
the
progress.
gospel of grace that God doesn't, but God uses trial. God uses difficulty and pain to equip us for a more effective service to Him. As you and I continue to trust and obey Him, God uses hardship to develop the character of Christ within us. How does God develop our faith in darkness? Here it is. God tells us to take two steps. First, we're to look to the Lord. Somebody say, trust in the Lord. Warren Wisby has said, we live by promises, not by explanations. Oh, I need to say that again. We live by promises and not by explanations. Just because it doesn't make sense to us doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense to God. I see y'all playing with me. Just because it doesn't make sense now doesn't mean that it's not going to make sense later.
That's right.
God's word never changes. It remains constant throughout all seasons of our lives. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not to our own understanding. In all our ways, acknowledge Him, and God will make our path straight. The second thing we do, not only do we trust in the Lord, but we must rely on God. I'm just teaching for a moment. I may preach in a minute, but we must rely on God. Apostle Paul has much to boast about. His qualifications are found in Philippians 3:4-6. However, he understood that impressive credentials are not really what matters. I know that's going to get tight. But Paul rightly saw that knowing Christ and relying on Him are the source of genuine value in life. But you ought to look at your neighbor and say, God is my source. I thank God for folk that have helped me along the way. I thank God for folk who've opened up doors. But whatever they did it because God told them to do it. They didn't do it because they wanted to do it. They did it because God led them to do it. Y'all trying to push me to preach. But I want to tell somebody today that every good thing that happened to me, God did it. Okay, y'all trying to look at me. But everything that happened to me, okay, you didn't hear what I said. If I've been blessed, it's because God wanted me to be blessed. If I've been lifted up, it's because God picked me up. And I need about 2 people in here that's not enough to say that it wasn't my degree, it wasn't my complexion, it wasn't my last name, it wasn't who I know, but it's who had His eyes on me. Look at your neighbor and say, God did it. Every good thing that happened to me, God did it. Through Christ that strengthens me. Faith in God means we rely on Him and we depend on His reliability. Having faith means realizing that God is bigger and greater than any trouble that you go through. Genuine faith is relying on God's direction on who He is. Okay, you missed that. Yeah, genuine faith is relying on God's direction and on who He is. God is reliable. Okay, you missed that. So what we need to recognize as dark periods in our lives are designed to be treasures from God. Isaiah 45:3, God says, I will give you treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that you may know that I, the Lord, who call you by your name, am the God of Israel. And there are some things that we can only understand in darkness. Learn some eternal truths. And one of the greatest dangers of darkness is that you may be tempted to light your own fire. Can I talk to you? If God is the one who's allowed the darkness to come your way, then don't you be a fool to try to light your own fire. In other words, don't you try to undo what God is doing. You see, a man-made fire is deceptive. In contrast to righteous, the unrighteous in the time of darkness, instead of trusting God, they trust in themselves. For Isaiah said they kindle a fire for themselves to walk by. And says, but watch out, because you who live by your own light and warm yourself by your own fire, then the reward you receive from me, you will soon have great torment. For example, God told Abraham and Sarah that they would have a child of their own, and God gave a wonderful promise. But however, God didn't fulfill that promise instantly. So Abraham, in the midst of darkness, of doubt, created his own fire suffering that came to Abraham and the word because he didn't wait on God in the midst of darkness. Has darkness come to your life? Are you waiting on God? Are you creating your own fire? So Rahab, what should I do when darkness come my way? Can I go ahead and tell you right now, you need not try to make your own way. Don't take things in your own hand. When folk do you wrong, I found out, and I wish I had a witness in here, if I get out of the way, God will, I said God will fight my battle. Is there a witness in the house? Have you ever had folk try to put a ditch in your way? Have you ever had folk?
Would you like to hear more? Come on down and visit us at 1400 Bethlehem Road, Rocky Mount High. We'll meet you in the black box. I want to see your face in the place.